Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's been a little bit since my last video. We previously worked on some telescopes and some airplane parts, and you know how it is. I work full-time, I have a family and kids, so it's been a bit. But recently a company called DIMIFUN has reached out to me and said they've come out with a new laser engraver, and they wanted to send it over and have me give it an evaluation and run it through its paces. It's a little bit smaller travel than the ones we've looked at previously, and it's not a company I've found very much information about online. There's a few videos out on it. There's really not a company website that I could find. Didn't look very long. But I'm a machinist. I love tools, so I said send it over. I'll run it through its paces, and we'll see what we've got. So this is the DIMIFUN DM6. It's a 6-watt laser module. It's supposed to be able to cut up to 8 millimeters or 5/16 of an inch wood, and I think 5 or 6 millimeter, 5 millimeter acrylic. It's roughly 330 by 330, 40, 50 millimeters of travel. So yeah, here's the box. Let's bust this baby open and see what they've sent us. All right, so let's crack this baby open, see what we've got here. All right. Got some instructions. Oh, got some anodized aluminum sheet here. Looks like for some testing. And all right, let's get this out of the box here. So far, I'm pretty impressed with the packaging. It's the least they can do, right? Spend your hard-earned money on a product, they better pack it up right. All right. So we've got some, looks to be maybe 20 millimeter anodized tube, a limit switch there. More tubes here. All right, let's get rid of those. DC power cord, USB cable, some glasses. These are the green style. I'm not sure what wavelength those are specifically for. Let's get some black anodized aluminum business card blanks, which is nice. Some nice samples to have there. Looks to be some 2 millimeter wood, maybe some birch ply. Pretty nice that they include sample materials. The laser module. All right. And it does have a little laser guard around here. Oh, nice. That's magnetic. So I like that. Little clear plastic guard, exposed electronics. Let's see, 450 plus or minus 5 nanometers, fixed focus, 23 millimeter focal length. All right. Let's see. Come on, there we go. So my assumption is this is the X-axis assembly here, where they have an engraved scale on there from 0 to 33 centimeters, 330 millimeters. It's already, looks like it's got a cog belt. Feels like it's already nicely tensioned here. No fine adjust, just screws and clamps here, but I don't mind that a bit. In my experience with these kind of cog belts, I haven't had to adjust them very much. Having said that, I'm in a pretty climate-controlled basement here, not out in a workshop. There's another limit switch here. All right. Little lint cloth. What do we have here? Yeah, some nice chrome-plated hex keys and some tools, some zip ties. Looks like my Y-axis cog belt here, and some hardware. Again, some nicely anodized angle brackets. These are for the feet, I'm assuming. Now I see 3 of them. Hopefully I'm not missing one. And then, oh, it's probably going to be included on this one. So this is the control box. Have a nice little e-stop switch here, power, USB, micro SD. Looks like it actually has a power button on this one. I'm not sure what this is, most likely a Wi-Fi antenna, I'm guessing. So all in all, nicely presented, nicely packaged, nicely finished. We do have a, oh, look at that, USB 2.0 to micro SD adapter. And they do include a card. It's 512 megabyte, better than nothing, I guess. Nice. There's the antenna. And then another USB. I'm not sure if this is instruction manuals, but I'm going to check this out. Now the instructions do lead you step by step through the process, and as a matter of fact, they're detailed enough that I didn't follow the instructions and had to disassemble half of the assembly because I did it wrong. All right. So I've got the belt assemblies on with the belts tensioned with a little bit of extra play on either end here on the front and back of the assembly. And this is, my table is not very level, so I'm going to put it on a nice level surface when I put the feet on. And let's move on to the next step here. I'm using a 5/10,000th dial indicator to check for positioning accuracy and repeatability in the x-axis. For this axis, I'm jogging the laser module about 10 millimeters on and off of the needle, and you can see it repeats to probably within 5/10,000ths of an inch. And now I will switch it over to the y-axis. And for the y-axis, I've loaded the needle, and I'm going to drive the laser module all the way back to the y-axis top center of the travel and bring it back, which is a bit of a distance. So, and you see jogging it back and forth, it still repeats in the y-axis to within 5/10,000ths of an inch, which is impressive considering it's just cog belts. For this first engraving test, I'm going to bring the head forward, and I'm going to use the included setting gauge, focus length setting gauge, to bring the head down, the laser module down to 2 millimeter setting distance from the laser guard. And we're just going to do some filled in engraving pattern on 3 millimeter birch plywood. Now I do see a bit of soot collecting on the surface of the wood. I do have the power up a little bit higher because I wanted the engraving to be set a little bit deeper below the surface of the wood, but it does seem to brush off pretty easily and nicely without staining the wood. A modification that I did is that I didn't notice any mechanism for adding an air assist, and as I said, there really isn't much information online, so I designed this 3D printed air assist. So I'm using the existing 4 mounting bolts up here, and I simply designed a 4 millimeter port, so you can just take the 4 millimeter air hose and just kind of squeeze it in there. It works well enough. There's not enough back pressure to make the hose squirt up off of the end. I have a little bar that wraps around, and then there's a channel that goes down, and there's a ring around the aperture for the laser, and there are 4 angled nozzles here which provide a little bit of air pressure to flush your cuts out of particulate matter or soot or anything that builds up there, and kind of clean. It makes a little bit better, cleaner cut, and I think it does help a little bit of the cutting performance. Even though it's only a 6 watt laser, it still does help, and it keeps your work a bit more soot free. So I had to design it like this because of this laser guard. So I made it so that it goes into the cutout here and it doesn't impede the magnets or anything like that. So you can just simply snap this on and snap it off, and you can still use this rather effective optical laser shield, which really helps. So you can just pop your magnetic laser on like that, and I will have this air assist assembly down in the description for download for free on Thingiverse. In testing in 3mm birch ply, the air assist didn't necessarily affect the cutting much, but as you can see, it does affect the amount of burn and soot on the surface of the wood. When engraving on coasters made out of cork, I do tend to run the power just a little bit heavier, because I prefer the embossed feeling of the engraving a bit deeper into the surface of the material. It gives it a little bit of a tactile feel. No soot, no smearing. I'm happy with the result. In Flite Test Foamboard, I haven't tested a diode laser yet that can cut all the way through because of the reflectivity of the core, but I often use it to cut tracing lines so that I can either take an X-Acto knife and cut out a component, or just use it for bend lines for ailerons and rudders. Does a great job on it. In test cutting 1/4" balsa wood board, I had higher hopes. As you can see on the second pass, it did start to burn a little bit. I think this has more to do with the quality of my air assist and the air pressure than it does the quality of the laser. But it did make it through in 2 passes. In 1/4" solid oak board, I had to make quite a few test cuts on this to get all the way through. I ended up running pretty high power and quite a few passes, as you can see. But the air assist did its job. It flushed all the particulates out, and the slug, you can just pop it right out. And in looking at the cut edges, minimal soot, nice and clean, so I was pretty pleased with this one. .3mm acrylic, ended up at 5 passes. I didn't try cutting it without the protective paper coating, but it burned through well. Nice clean edges, no overmelt, no burning. Vinyl upholstery, single pass, no problem. They were nice enough to include some pre-anodized black aluminum business card blanks, so I did a combination of filled-in engraving and single-line outline font engraving, and it came out great. The settings that they included in the manual worked really well without warping the metal of the business card due to the heat. They included a stainless steel dog tag in the shape of a dog bone. It's coated, I'm not sure if it's black oxide or whatever shiny coating they used, but the engraving actually came out really well. Nice and sharp and clean, and still shiny. Now I did want to show you some digital microscope views of some of the parts. This is that stainless steel coated dog tag, and this is probably 20 times magnification, but you can kind of see the back and forth pattern and how even all of the changes of the directions are. Now this is very magnified, and this is not something you can readily see or easily see with the naked eye, but I just wanted to give you a zoomed in view of the pattern. And here is it on the wood, and you can see how accurately it shapes these letters. These letters are only about, I'd say about 4 or 5 millimeters. But the changes in directions and the form looks really well. And this is a butterfly, and It's hard to tell from this image, but the engraving is actually very deep into the wood here, relatively deep. I'd say maybe a quarter to a half of a millimeter in depth because of the burn, but the fine details really look good even under this highly magnified view. Now, one thing I would advise is on this business card, you can see the pattern of the engraving on the Air Force logo here, and that all looks great. And this was done at a pretty high rate of speed. One of the things that you'll notice is that if you're doing a picture where you're filling in, that you can go as fast as you would like. But when you go down to do outlined fonts, you can see that there is vibration and backlash from running it at a very large speed. Now, this is by no means a criticism of the machine. I think pretty much every machine is going to do this, especially belt drive machines. But that's just one of the things that you'll, on the programming end, on the light burn side, is when you're doing single line font, you will probably want to slow down your feed rate and also decrease the intensity of the laser so you can get a cleaner outline. Now, having said that, if you're looking at this sitting on your desk, you're not going to notice this, or you'll notice it very little. But I am very impressed with the quality of the positioning of this machine. During testing, one of the things I did notice is that the Z-axis assembly, while it's great that it has this very sizable thumb screw here, it was pretty stiff and a little bit crunchy with the lead screw and the two rails here. So I did hit these with just a tiny drop on the lead screw and on the two rails of a silicone lubricant, and now it's hardly any effort at all to manipulate the Z-axis up and down. So that is one thing you probably want to do if yours came in the condition that mine did, with a little bit of resistance on the Z-axis, but now it works beautifully. Now, the machine does include a very basic mobile software where you can do some creation. It looks like selecting materials. You can actually manipulate and move the machine. I didn't have very many connectivity issues. It is through a Wi-Fi generated by the machine, so you have to log your mobile device to the Wi-Fi of the machine through this little antenna here. But I think I'm not going to spend too much time on this software. I think the vast majority of people are going to be using Lightburn and or the laser gerbil software, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I do think it is something nice that they included. So after about 10 hours of testing, I really have no concerns. Some of the things I like the on-off button. It's a very simple thing, but most of these do not come with that. I really like the e-stop. It's not an additional add-on. Just trigger that for safety. Fit and finish overall is really nice, including the anodize and the included scales on the X, the Y, and in X it's actually in two places, which is really nice. The Z-axis adjust. A little bit of lube, beautifully smooth. I love how you can adjust this, and it makes it really easy to focus and hit the focal length because they include this nice little focus length block. Now, I was concerned because this is a 6-watt laser and it only is a 2mm focal length from the end of the laser shield. So the guard is pretty close to the work when you do have it focused. However, having said that, this laser shield is nice and magnetic and easily removable, and it's actually really effective. So because it is such a short distance from the end of the laser shield, I didn't really even need to close the door on my enclosure. I was able to just leave it open, and that does a very effective job in blocking out the light from your eyes if you're not wearing your glasses. Another great touch is this rod that connects the motor to the other side for Y-axis travel, so it leaves very little lag from one side to the other or twist from any inaccuracies from the Y-axis. So all in all, very good. No real concerns. The exposed wires up here, I don't see it being an issue, but it's probably something I would keep an eye on later on, depending on how much you use it and how clean your work environment is. Leveling feet, another nice to have thing, but again, no real concerns. The DIMIFUN DM6, easy assembly, handful of screws, 15 minutes tops. If you're less mechanically inclined, it includes all the tools you need. It's a few plugs. I wouldn't be concerned about assembly. It is, I think, fully featured for a 6-watt laser with all the extra bells and whistles that you get. I think because of the laser guard, if you don't have an enclosure yet, of course you want one because of exhaust and fumes and ventilation and that, but with the laser guard, it really does help protect eye shield if you have other people in your work environment. So at this price point, I think it's a pretty good buy for your workspace or your makerspace. And if you want to just get into the hobby to see what it's about, running the Lightburn software, the Wi-Fi software, I think it's nice to have, but I don't see very many people using that in my opinion. But I think you won't be disappointed if you want to try one of these out. So I really appreciate your time, and thanks for watching, guys. Thanks.